This is the trial to become a qualified treasure hunter. James must remove the clothes from the monster before the candle burns out. He starts by pulling out a smoky-emitting item to test the monster's breathing rate and see if it's in a deep slumber. Once he confirms the monster is deeply asleep, he wraps a rope around himself and ties the other end tightly around the monster's neck, connecting them closely so he can easily take off the clothes. Just then, several wild cats appear in the monster's lair, and one climbs right onto James's arm. He knows that if the cats touch the monster, it will wake up quickly, so he grabs a gem from the coffin and smashes a pottery jar in the tomb chamber, successfully luring the cat away from his arm. But to his surprise, another wild cat at the coffin's edge jumps onto the monster and steps on its finger. James realizes the monster will awaken soon, so he pulls it out of the coffin to speed up removing the clothes. However, as he drags the monster out, it suddenly grows thick fuzz all over its body, a clear sign it's waking up much faster than he expected. He then rushes to the candle and picks up a black gem he had ready, which can put the monster back into a deep slumber. But the black cat tries to jump onto the monster again, as if to hasten its awakening. Left with no choice, James shoves the cat aside. He quickly places the black gem into the monster's mouth, and instantly, the fuzz retracts into its body, sending the monster back into a deep slumber. Just as James is about to remove the clothes, the wild cats charge at the monster once more. He uses the rope to maneuver the monster and avoid them, but the candle is nearly burnt out. If he doesn't finish before it extinguishes, he'll fail the treasure hunter test. To stop the cats from hindering him further, he uses ventriloquism to mimic a tiger's roar, scaring them off instantly. However, the moment he successfully removes the monster's clothes, the candle goes out at the same time. After returning, James told his mentor John everything that had happened, and admitted that he retrieved the clothes at the exact same moment the candle went out. Normally, this outcome would mean he failed the test, but James's honesty impressed John, who decided to give him another chance to become a treasure hunter. This time, however, there was no additional test. Instead, John invited James to join him in searching for the Pearl of Life, a treasure known to very few, said to extend the wearer's life by 100 years. On their way to the ruins of Blackstone City, they met a kind-hearted pediatrician named Diego. From Diego's conversation with several other people, they learned that he knew the precise location of Blackstone City. Although John had a general idea of its whereabouts, he didn't know the exact spot. So, they decided to hire Diego as their guide. It wasn't long before Diego led them into a desert where the ruins of Blackstone City lay buried beneath the sand. John then took out a positioning device and accurately located the entrance to the ruins. After walking through a circular passage, they arrived at the entrance to Blackstone City. Once inside, they were greeted by a massive stone statue. While Diego marveled at the immense craftsmanship required to create such a sculpture, James immediately leaped onto a stone platform in the middle of the cliff. But these once sturdy platforms had weathered over countless years, and could no longer support any weight. They quickly began to crack and collapse. James hurriedly jumped to another platform, swiftly crossing the cliff to reach the side where the great statue stood. He then threw a grappling hook over to John. After John caught it, James securely anchored the hook into the rock, creating a zipline. John and Diego then swung across safely to the other side. However, aside from the giant statue, they found no entrance leading into the core of Blackstone City. Just then, as Diego knelt down in respect before the statue, he accidentally triggered a mechanism. Instantly, the statue's mouth began to slowly open. John suspected that the statue's mouth was the entrance to the inner core of Blackstone City, so they all entered through it. Sure enough, the interior led them to the true heart of the ancient city. But as soon as they stepped into a stone chamber, they noticed an object resembling a wasp's nest. Its surface was pitch black and strangely unsettling. Even the well-traveled John had no idea what it was. Then, as Diego complained that the chamber was too dark, he lit a torch that was placed inside. The moment light filled the room, they saw it was filled with gold, silver, jewels, and all kinds of precious antiques. But just as they were searching for the Pearl of Life, the black, hive-like object suddenly twitched. This dark mass was actually a deadly creature known as bone-devouring worms. In low temperatures, they layer upon each other and enter a dormant state. However, the moment they sense heat nearby, they immediately awaken and devour any warm object. John instantly realized these bone-devouring worms were extremely dangerous. They had to leave the chamber right away. Yet the Pearl of Life they had come for was right in front of them, and James refused to give up the opportunity. Left with little choice, John and Diego agreed to help him retrieve the treasure before making their escape. But when James opened the stone box, he discovered the Pearl of Life wasn't inside. Instead, they found a tortoise shell engraved with the precise location of the pearl. The only problem was the text was written in an ancient script impossible for most people to decipher. They would have to find someone who could interpret the markings after getting out. Just as they prepared to leave, the bone-devouring worms slipped through a crack in the stone door and entered the room. Strangely, the worms didn't attack them directly. Instead, they swarmed the lit candle inside the chamber. A wave of dread washed over John. Once the worms finished consuming the hot candle, the only warm objects left would be the three of them. Realizing this, they rushed toward the exit, but to their horror, a much larger swarm of bone-devouring worms was waiting outside the chamber. James quickly drew his pistol and fired until it was empty. He then threw the hot gun onto the ground to distract the worms. Though the pistol was solid metal, the worms' teeth were even sharper. They devoured the weapon in moments. Seeing the swarm charge toward them, John shoved James aside, urging him to run, then helped Diego up after he tripped. But in seconds, the bone-devouring worms surrounded John, covering him in severe wounds in mere moments. Witnessing this, James rushed back and pulled John to safety at the cost of his own arm. To buy time, James tossed a gold coin at a mechanism on the stone door, activating traps throughout the chamber. In an instant, vast amounts of sand poured into the room. Soon after, they managed to escape the chamber. But James had permanently lost an arm, and John later succumbed to his injuries. After James buried John, he and Diego continued their journey, determined to find someone who could decipher the ancient text on the tortoise shell. For 10 long years, James searched without success. It wasn't until 30 years later that his daughter, Allison, finally located someone capable of reading the ancient script. According to the inscriptions on the tortoise shell, the pearl of life was hidden deep inside an ancient tomb.